So we've got Joel Kurz from Garden City.
The Garden Church.
Sorry.
Cut.
Why
Start
do I
over.
say no?
Start
This
over.
doesn't get cut.
Oh.
I always tell people it's
Just have somebody edit
So
that.
why? No, we'll call it. I get mistaken
Garden
for
City.
the Garden
We
City.
could be called Garden City.
But why do I mistake? Is there a?
New Jersey.
Is that a place?
That's a place. It's a state.
I've been there.
To New Jersey.
Okay, yeah.
But we're the Garden Church, and we're not in New Jersey.
No, you're the Garden Church in Baltimore.
Baltimore, Maryland.
Maryland, where the cookies come from.
I don't know. I've wondered that. So in Scotland, they sell these little cookies.
Yeah.
They say Maryland on them.
Yeah. So
They're
we're
really
just
good.
assuming naively.
Yeah.
That they come
I
from
bought
where
some
you
for
come
my
from.
kids.
So anyway, Joel, we met years ago, right?
Yeah.
At a 9 Marks gig.
Yeah. A long time ago.
Was it that long ago? Just before the big
I
riot.
met Matthew before I met you.
Yeah.
So 2012, 2013, maybe?
When were the big riots? Last ones?
2013?
Yeah.
2014?
Just around that time. I remember you wrote a piece in 9 Marks, which I thought.
Is that when we met?
Yeah. It's when you came to mind.
I feel like I've known you my whole life.
I know. It's a beautiful romance we've got going on.
Yeah, it's nice.
So anyway, the Garden Church.
The Garden Church.
And you also run One Hope.
Yeah.
So I got that right.
You got it.
Not the One Hope.
Just One Hope.
Okay. So tell us about your church and tell us about One Hope.
One Hope. So the Garden Church is in West Baltimore.
TGC, right?
TGC.
The
We are
original.
the TGC.
Yeah.
We're in West Baltimore. It's a inner city neighborhood. Very similar context to what you might have here in a scheme.
I would suggest
issues.
you're more brutal than ours, to be fair, but go on.
Might be, I don't know.
In fact, you are similar, I would say,
like
to the
60%
favelas in Brazil.
unemployed, 93% of the neighborhood's in poverty.
Yeah,
So-
but with your gun violence and crime,
Gun violence, yeah.
that's much more akin to when we worked in Brazil.
But I'd rather deal with somebody with a gun than a knife.
That's true.
I heard you had a dude walking around with a machete.
Yeah, here the weapon of choice is the machete and the samurai sword.
That's scary.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's our context. We've been there since 2008. We constituted as a church in 2012. A couple of years ago, we started One Hope, which is a ministry that is just seeking to plant, revitalize other churches in poor neighborhoods.
And how's it going?
It's good. It's been very slow. So when we started One Hope, the idea was we've got this ministry, we've got all of these needs. We've got mercy ministries that we're doing that are reaching out to the community. We need help. We need funding. And so in some ways, we started One Hope just to help the Garden Church make disciples in the community. And then as we're starting One Hope, we realize this needs to be a much broader foundation than just the Garden Church. And so it was actually Matthew. He and I sat down and I was talking through our vision with with Matthew about One Hope. And
Matthew Spanner Davison.
yeah, you're Matthew.
You know, he cried at the recent Downton Abbey film.
Did he?
I've heard
I
that.
heard it was great. I think you tweeted that it was great. I don't know if that was you.
That was my daughter's.
That was your daughter.
Also, he doesn't know I know that, and I'm about to destroy him when I see him later.
That's amazing.
Tell me you haven't seen Downtown Abbey.
No.
Good lord.
Downtown?
That's why I call it Downtown, because it upsets the posh people who correct me and
Yeah.
say, "Do you know it's Downton?"
Downtown Abbey.
So, if it was
So
called
Matthew
Downtown Abbey,
cried
I
at
might watch
Downton
it.
Abbey.
Well, that's what I'm hearing, and I'm about to
Yeah.
open up a can of whoop ass
Yeah.
on him.
That's
He's the
tough.
softer, gentler side of 20 schemes.
Right. But you need that.
Yeah. Listen, I think every church planting movement needs a crybaby.
Yeah.
I think it helps, right?
Yeah. So Matthew and I sat down some years ago.
Did he
and
cry?
I don't think he cried
Okay.
actually, but we weren't talking about Downtown Abbey.
Okay.
So
anyway,
anyway, all that to say, One Hope is this mission, urban missions platform to seek to develop, train, resource ministry
tell me, how are you
in
up raising
urban
money
neighborhoods.
for it?
It's slow. It's coming along. We're getting some churches behind it. So we're up until now, we've had about half our budget coming from one supporter.
Yeah.
And that, it's a limited number of years that supporter is going to give, and I think we're in that last year. So
Okay.
all that to say, it's
a pressure,
grind.
though, right?
It's a grind. And we're hoping to revitalize other churches as well. So our budget is going to be ever expanding as we have opportunities to do so. Right now, we're looking at our first opportunity to potentially replant a church.
Which will be where?
South Baltimore.
Okay, so not that
Yeah,
far.
and I can't say anything about it publicly
that's
because
cool.
it might not happen.
Yeah, that's
but
cool.
it's a possibility.
We have that all the time. So.
Yeah.
You're also very keen on training women's gospel workers, right?
Yeah.
Tell us about that.
Well, I think women need to be trained up for ministry. And I will say this, I think in the States, I don't know how it is over here, but in the States, sometimes I'm a little discouraged by such a heavy emphasis on training up men in sort of our reformed-ish evangelical circles. Probably reactionary to egalitarianism, I guess. And I hear pastors say, I'm just all about training up the men. And that concerns me a little bit because we need to train up the women as well.
Well,
Titus
particularly
2
for our
addresses
context,
women.
anyway.
Yeah,
Is your
especially
context
in our-
like
yeah,
ours,
so it's-
where the majority would be single mothers?
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. So we have a young lady, Stephanie, on staff.
Shout out to Steph,
Stephanie.
little space cadet.
Yeah, she's a space cadet. She wrote a great chapter in a book with Shaba.
Well, we haven't got the book here.
I wish
had
we
the
did.
book.
I was just reading her
Do
chapter
you want to
before
just
I
jump
walked
out and
in.
get a book and come back in?
It's
Don't worry.
excellent. What's the book called? I'm forgetting.
I think it's called Unforgettable,
No.
which
it's
is
not
quite ironic.
It's called Unexceptional, I think. I think it's called Unexceptional.
Which is my interview technique. Unacceptable.
That is
Oh, it'd be
20
great-
schemes
wouldn't it be
branding.
great if it was called
Unexceptional.
Unforgettable,
Yeah. Here it is.
though? Come on then.
Thank you.
You plug it out, though.
Unexceptional.
Yeah,
Unexceptional.
cool.
And
Available from 10ofthose.com.
yeah, ordinary women doing extraordinary things through God. Stephanie, who wrote a chapter in this, she works with us. Stephanie was, in some ways, when we first started One Hope, she was the beginning of it. I raised some money, and I brought her on staff, and that's really when we began this this new ministry within the church to seek to kind of broaden the impact of the work. So,
And she was quite influenced a little bit by our women's director, Sharon, right?
oh, I don't know if a little bit
But
would be the appropriate.
we love Stephanie, by the
Yeah.
way. So
She was influenced a lot by Sharon, aka Shaba.
yeah,
So yes, so Stephanie, we don't call her a women's worker as you would here at 20 Schemes.
Okay.
She's a gospel worker focusing on.
I think we call them that as well. I just
Okay,
get
okay.
I get all the titles confused.
But she'll work with men as well.
right.
So she does some group things like job training.
Yeah.
There's the felt need in our context is jobs. I don't
Yeah.
know if you have that here. I don't think you do as much. But where we're at, everybody wants a job.
Yeah, where we're at, everybody doesn't want a job.
Yeah, and so it's a little different. So people are constantly like, "Hey, man, you know any jobs? You got any jobs?" And so that was a sort of a hole that I put Stephanie
Would she
in.
work with men in a one-to-one discipleship situation?
No.
Okay.
But more in like a broader group context
Okay.
or conflict resolution sort of training, job
Okay.
training, job placement. So she really meets a lot of felt needs.
Yeah.
And then what she does is as she's connecting with individuals, she places them with people in the church.
Yeah.
Men with men, women with women who are going to be doing gospel discipleship, sharing the gospel with them. So I might even be meeting with somebody and I'm trying to walk through the Gospel of Mark with him. And he comes in with this big stack of papers, and he's wanting to talk about resumes and all of this stuff he's trying to get together, getting his ID. So I can kind of use Stephanie to help him sort out some things, kind of like a caseworker.
Yeah, that's good.
And she just gets these. She's really good at just getting things rolling, and has a huge impact with the women as well.
Yeah.
So personal discipleship with
Why do you
ladies
think
in the church.
people from
in the
our
community.
theological tribe have been so slow at this with training women?
Well, I don't know. I think my guess is it's just we're always reactionary, aren't we?
I don't know. So.
We, generally speaking, reactionary to egalitarianism, probably. That's my guess.
I mean, yeah,
We're going to show how non-egalitarian we are by ignoring the women.
I mean, I didn't grow up in a culture of Christianity, so that may well be true historically,
In America,
generationally.
maybe. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm
That's
not saying
my
it's
guess.
not true.
I honestly don't know.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it could just be a reaction to that, and we're going to train up men.
To be honest, I wouldn't even call myself complementarian anymore.
What would you call yourself?
Just biblical.
I
won't call myself anything.
Would there be any context when a woman should preach a Sunday sermon?
No.
At church?
Never. You?
No.
I mean,
So you're complementarian. You just don't use it.
No,
you don't like the term.
No, I think the term has been completely lost. Americans, as usual, have ruined everything.
Are you patriarchal, authoritarian?
I probably would be patriarchal on the scale, which is ironic given I employ more women probably than any church I would imagine in Europe.
Explain your patriarchy then.
So this is the problem, definitions. So I would have said 5 years ago I'm a complementarian, no doubt about it. If we define complementarian as meaning, women can and should be encouraged to flourish using their God-given gifts in any role within the church except for eldership and preaching roles.
Okay.
Now, that in the current debate, so that would have put me patriarchy there, complementarianism sort of there, egalitarianism there. Yeah, yeah. I feel that the current debate has moved egalitarianism over here and inadvertently shoved me over to that side. So it's not because I've gone there. Yeah. I think they've just suddenly started moving their boundaries, and now you've got complementarians saying, well, it is all right for a woman to preach as long as she's under the sort of auspices of the elders. Well, hang on a minute. Yeah. That's old-fashioned egalitarianism that's killed the Church of Scotland, and here we've seen you're 50 years behind us in America in some ways. Yeah. We've seen what that's led to, and so I think I'm probably patriarchy light. Not that I would identify as that, but just my position. I've not changed, but this conversation's changed. Yeah. So what is a complementarian?
Well, yeah. Look, I'm not getting into
seems to be anything,
but
right?
I will say this. The fact that you train, equip women would not put you in the patriarchal camp.
But that'd be unfair, and I tell you why. That may be true in your country.
According to our definition of patriarchy.
Yeah, and I know good, solid guys who would say they're patriarchal, but who would be fully on board with what we're doing here without any issue. I mean, it's such a fascinating. Well, not fascinating. It's just a bit tragic. Yeah. The term. So that's why I avoid any. So if you spoke to any of my lasses and said complementarian or patriarchalism or egalitarian,
they have no clue.
They would just be like, we love the Lord. There's some rules here. Yeah. Listen, the definitions are good to qualify what we mean when we talk to each other at this level. Right. But I just think. Yeah. I don't know. It's like the word evangelical now. I look in America and I'm like, well, that I don't even call myself that anymore. Yeah. Not here, because it just doesn't mean what people think it means. Yeah. I don't know.
But at the end of the day, though,
you're a bright lad. What do you think? Because you're an American who's lived in the UK for 4 years. So we use the same word sometimes, but very differently, right? Yeah. You would agree to that. Yeah. But do you think that complementarity, as defined by some American leading evangelicals right now, is the same as what we're defining complementarity here in the UK?
No. So there was a podcast a couple of years ago that got a lot of airtime in the States, and it was about church planting. Heard of NPR? NPR did this big secular organization, did this podcast on starting churches for some reason. Okay. And they were talking with a self-declared complementarian who was letting women preach in his church on Sunday. So this went out over the airwaves and caused a lot of... And this guy was a part of a big church planting network at the time. I don't think he is anymore because he...
How would you define complementarian? This is Ben, by the way. Ben is... What do you do now for us? What's your job?
20 Schemes editorial manager.
So he's that 20 Schemes editorial manager. So he's going to be a guy who's going to be very clear on his words and how we communicate them. I can be a bit loose, but would you define it the same way I just defined it?
I think the word flourishing is key. Women flourishing with their in their God-given role, with their gifts, under the under godly male leadership.
Yeah.
I think is complementarity. And I think that allows for complementarity to be used in the home under that definition. So if I'm leading my wife well as a complementarian, then she should be flourishing in the Lord.
But why do we need to say the word? Why can't we just say, if I'm leading my life well as a Christian man of God, this is what we should be doing? Do you see my point?
No,
I'm
I
not
get
saying
you.
the label's unimportant. I'm just saying it's just so crashed.
Well,
I
it's
just,
like
I've just
but
got
it's kind of like Calvinism, isn't it? I mean, it's a
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
label. It's a term that is a nickname for a broader movement.
But you wouldn't
way
have
of
a
thinking
Calvinist.
that-
So someone saying I'm a Calvinist, who would say, yeah, I think salvation is 90% God, 10% me, and could still claim to be a Calvinist. But what's happening in America is these guys are saying, well, yeah, no, she can speak under the authority of the elders on a Sunday, and yet they can still keep the name complementarian.
Yeah.
See what I'm saying? So I'm like, who
Yeah.
The term becomes meaningless.
who made that rule up
Yeah,
then? Where
yeah.
did that rule come from?
Yeah. Well, I think there's a caving to culture to some degree with all of that as well.
Okay.
But the point, though, is we need to be training women. That's where we.
I'm
that's
all
where-
about training
yeah,
women, as you well know. I'm very
Yeah.
serious.
Yeah. And I think there's this unfortunate dichotomy between those who are just abandoning a biblical understanding of gender as it relates to ministry, and those who are only focusing on training men and sort of just ignore the women over here.
Yeah. Interesting. Tell
Yeah.
me about the race card, because that's another thing that's all over the place. Did you see that? There was a thing on internet last night about Tinternet last night about that young black lad. I don't know the context of the story, giving some testimony. I think it's some sort of witness statement about. I think did some white lady, she may have been a police officer, shot his brother somehow. Did you see that?
Mm-hmm.
And he said he wanted to forgive her and give her a hug and da-da-da-da. And I thought that was quite a moving thing. I thought, fair play, son. And then I saw an absolute flurry of posts from black guys, well-known ones as well, who I follow and follow me, saying, this is just another whitewash and, the white man trying to appease his conscience by, forgiveness, and this woman didn't get enough time for a crime and all this sort of stuff. So it's just, and then you've got another black guy coming in going, there you go, another black victim, and then it all blew up again.
Okay.
Man, it is wild out there right now. What's that all about, bro? And as a white guy, I know.
I was going to say, Mez, I'm white. Why are you asking me this question?
Well, because white privilege, right? No, but you're a white guy working in a majority black
That's true.
neighborhood. And so I'm just fascinated. From my perspective, culturally, we have very similar battles, except without the guns. But you're a white guy in a predominantly black neighborhood with a predominantly black church. And I just think you probably have an unusual perspective, or at least a perspective that not many of the white guys weighing in have.
So what is your perspective when you hear the backlash to dude hugging the woman?
Yeah, I hadn't
And
thought
then
it through.
there's sort of a
so there's
backlash
some
to
guys,
that of
some guys I
questioning-
respect who were like going, well, hang on a minute, why are all the white dudes highlighting? It wasn't just all white dudes, but why are all the white dudes going, look, this is a great act of Jesus' mercy, and there's no black or white, we're all one in Jesus stuff. And then the black guy's going, well, hang on a minute, she only got 10 years for killing a black man. If a black man had killed a white woman, he'd be doing 50 years to life. And I'm like thinking, well, that does sound like a legitimate gripe, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So in that sense, I'm thinking, well, I'm sympathetic to the whole context, but at the same time, that's still a very moving Christian thing that boy did.
I don't know. I
seem to be like
feel
one
like
or the other.
Here's
bang
the
or bang.
funny thing. All right, you're asking me this question on camera.
Yeah.
I was talking to a guy on the phone yesterday in the States, and I literally told him last night, I don't talk publicly about this sort of stuff. I don't engage. I just gotta kind of sit back and listen, and I'll talk privately.
So you don't have to engage publicly then. I'm cool with that.
But yeah, given the fact that we have cameras.
Yeah. I'm cool if you just want to move
so
it along.
here's my
I'm just
here are
fascinated.
my thoughts. It's fine. I just think it's ironic. I think
What do you think's ironic?
just that you asked me this question.
Why would you think that?
After I told my friend last night that I
But
don't,
I'm happy
I
at
don't
this
want to
point
get into
for us to
social
because this will
media
go.
debates
You don't
over
have to get
things.
into a debate if you want to leave it. Honestly, bro. I'm not
No, I
trying
will
to
say
catch you out or
something.
anything. I'm interested.
No, it's fine. It's fine. I don't have a ton of thoughts. I don't have like a right or a wrong, black and white approach to this. I think one, black and white. That's kind of an ironic thing to say. First of all, I think the forgiveness is extremely moving and convicting. That someone, and also I think the dude is regenerate. Just watching the video, like, it seems like he understands the gospel.
Oh yeah,
The brother.
and even the offense of that it brought is part of the gospel,
Yeah,
right?
Yeah. So very moving and convicting, and it makes me think, you know, are there people that I need to forgive in my life?
Mm-hmm.
And I saw also some comments, and to me, I might be wrong, but it seems like sort of a, man, this is great. However, let's not let this cloud out any injustice.
Yeah,
that is taking place.
That's
Yeah.
a good summary.
Another thing that
Which I would agree with.
Yeah, and I would agree with that. Another thing would be maybe a feeling that white people are posting about this, but they didn't post about the original shooting when it took place.
Yeah.
And cry out against injustice there. So, all that to say, I don't have any negative, response to that. My personal feeling is sort of like let's just relish in the forgiveness that this guy's able to give for a moment, and let's just enjoy this moment.
Let me come at the question from another way, because I'm not really asking for a political comment.
Sure.
So how we manage as a white pastor in a predominantly black area is, do you ever have any problems racially?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I suppose is what?
Usually a misunderstanding of intention, why I'm there. I think initially, my presence there was a concern of gentrification, and I'm a picture of gentrification for many people. Over the years, though, we've established credibility with the neighborhood. People love the church. Many of the folks come to the church from the neighborhood.
Yeah, it's a great church.
But there's still, still can be a question of intentions at times. And like any pastoral ministry, you have to walk with wisdom within your context. But I love it. I really do.
Does race ever come up with your team?
Yeah, we talk about race quite a bit. And our church is racially diverse. So we have a number of folks who are from the neighborhood. Our church is largely African American. We also have white folks that come. And so we're regularly having conversations of seeking to understand each other, multicultural challenges where we're missing each other at times, expectations. So we're regularly talking about race. But a lot of the stuff, though, that hits the news, that's not always our conversations. A lot of times, those conversations are being had by people that are really outside of our context.
And I was struck, because I've been to Baltimore a couple of times and hung out with your crew, and they've been here and hung out with us, and I mean, we love each other, right? So this is and I've been struck by how completely, when I talk to like Montreal and others and stuff, they're like, we're just getting on with the ministry, mate. Like this war has been had on the Twitter sphere by a lot of people I think aren't actually, I'm not saying they're not all, but I don't appear to be sort of practitioners on the ground, where the guys on the front line doing the work are just going, look, let's just roll our sleeves up and get on with this.
Yeah.
We're not saying it's not a problem and it's not an area and we shouldn't be discussing it.
Yeah.
But I was just struck when I was at the Garden Church. It's like, we hear that debate, but you know what? I've got to meet this guy today and disciple and tell him about Jesus.
I think the Twitter wars that we see, that's a very, very, very small percentage of people that are having those conversations on Twitter.
It just feels like it's a megaphone, isn't it?
Yeah, if you're on Twitter within the Reformed Christian world, evangelical world.
They go for each other, right?
Yeah, but people in our context, they have no clue who any of these people are.
And likewise here, someone once asked me, how do you keep your feet on the ground speaking at T4G and blah, blah, blah. I said, well, why don't you come and live in my community for a week?
Yeah. Nobody cares.
No one cares. Two, no one's heard of anybody.
Right.
So
you could have John Piper speak on a Sunday morning. And he's just some American dude that's preaching.
I mean, the Christians would all know who he is.
Sure.
But no one here would.
Yeah.
They just They wouldn't bother.
Yeah, same with us.
He's just like some Yoda-looking little dude.
Right, right.
Do you think he sounds like Mr. Burns?
Oh, yeah. Mr. Burns is his brother. Did you know that?
Is it?
Yeah, twins.
Wow.
Yeah.
But he does.
He
John
does.
Piper sounds
Looks
like
a
Mr.
lot
Burns.
like him.
Hello.
Yeah.
I like JP actually. He was in Scotland recently.
Oh, yeah.
He
For
had
the conference.
Yeah, he had a breakfast with the boys.
It's good.
Gave us some wisdom.
Did
He's
they
a
enjoy
good
it?
lad. They did actually. There's sort of a lot of fanboyishness around.
Yeah, yeah. Who's taller, you or John Piper?
See, there's some pictures out there. What John's laughing. There's some pictures out there that make it look like he's taller than me. But I think that's perspective. You know, you get those sort of perspective photos.
Okay. He was standing in front of you.
Yeah, and so I
You're in
think
the background.
I think it's. I think he's actually taller than me. But I did ask him if he was wearing those insteps. You know, you can get those little lifts. I mean, I don't
Did he
know.
have them on?
He denied it, but
Yeah, you're wearing yours today.
he
though.
would. I'm always got them on.
And that's why you wear a hat, is that right? Because it makes you a little taller.
Well, I like to if I peek it.
Yeah.
So I just got into trouble for what I wear. Let's talk about this.
Okay.
I was speaking at a conference.
So because you're trying to look cool and edgy, you dress the way you dress.
That
Ligonier conferences.
has been the. To be fair,
been the accusation.
Ligonier have been absolutely brilliant. Nothing. We've been fine. They've got absolutely no problem, and I with them. But my tribe again, good old Reform boys, were up in arms that I disrespected the other speakers by dressing like this, and I only did it to emphasize my working classness.
So kind of a funny story on this. At a very conservative college in the States, women were not allowed to wear a V-neck, V-cut shirt, and a young lady did, and the professor asked her to stand up and asked her to go change, and she was refusing. And he said, "Young lady, what is the V pointing toward?" Indicating her breast.
Yeah.
And she said, "Sir, what is your tie pointing toward?"
Amen. And what did he say?
Think about it. He made her leave, and she got in trouble.
Now, let me be clear. I'm not. If you want to wear suits and ties and cool, I'm cool if they think that honors the Lord. But I don't think if you think that honors the Lord, you can ascribe sinful motives to someone who doesn't wear that. Do you understand what I mean? I just find, and I've struggled with this over the years. I just wonder if it's a culturally British thing.
Unfortunately, I don't have an answer for you. I have no clue.
Is that a British thing that doesn't have?
No, it's an American thing as well. Who's your association here? Are they Reformed Baptists? Is that your tribe?
But with Nidri, historically Reformed, I would say Reformed. I would say Reformed and particular Baptists theologically, if we're going to get into it. But
so when you were saved, you were going to a particular Baptist church?
Yeah, I was going to an independent evangelical church.
Okay.
Which I would say was strongly Reformed and influenced down that line, but not so strict.
Okay.
In that sense.
They weren't Sabbatarians.
They pretty much were. I remember they used to have a post box outside the church, and people were like told off if you walked into church and put a letter in it. It's not anymore, but I mean there was some.
Did you wear a suit to church?
Yeah.
Any pictures?
For the first few months of, thankfully it was before social media.
Yeah.
So for the first few months, I had an AV Bible, and I wore like a shirt and a tie. Somebody went out and bought. I didn't have any clothes. Someone bought me a shirt and a tie.
Yeah, and this is right after you were converted.
Right after, because
And
everybody who saved, that's what they dress like.
You went to Bible college after that.
Within 9 months, I was in seminary. Yeah.
And was that a Reformed Baptist?
No, there's no
Charismatic,
Reformed Baptist.
Pentecostal.
Yeah, it was. I would say, looking back now, definitely an evangelical, charismatic college.
You told me once that you destroyed a professor's classroom.
Oh yeah.
Threw his computer out the window, I think.
No, I didn't. I just smashed the office up. I didn't throw
Oh,
anything
just
out the
smashed
window.
it.
No,
Gotcha.
I didn't do anything bad.
And why did you do that?
I can't remember. He's talking 25 years ago.
Yeah.
I've been a Christian not even a year.
He just made you upset.
He was annoying. I left that room praising the Lord.
You thought you did the right thing.
Yeah. I mean, you've got to remember, I just got out of prison for robbery.
Why were you praising the Lord?
Because
you didn't kill him?
Yeah, well, I stabbed a couple of guys in the face for less.
Yeah.
Which is what I got jailed for.
So you were able to restrain your anger.
Yeah, so I just smashed his office up.
And walked out.
And I mean, we're joking, but it was a serious thing.
Yeah.
That was a
So
sign
you were
of
surprised when you
sanctification.
got in trouble.
Yeah, oh yeah, they called me in a principal's office, and it was like, "You just did this." I'm like, he's alive, right?
Yeah.
I mean, praise the Lord.
You thought they were bringing you in to praise you.
Well, no, I knew I was in trouble, but
okay.
Our views on sanctification. This is interesting. Let's segue into sanctification.
Okay.
Because how many times do we let an intern fail? Now, we have interns, and I know
That's
you've
what
got
we're dealing with right now.
some
Yeah.
where you've got a guy or a girl, you're on an internship, and I won't name names, but I remember years ago that we had someone on an internship, and they joined us I got a phone call on a Friday night saying, so-and-so's been arrested. Like, what?
Yeah.
They've only been an intern about 3 weeks.
Yeah.
And I said, what for? Well, they planked someone over the head with a piece of wood or something. But it was a big thing. So anyway, they got bail, they got out. They came to talk to me, and there was a big discussion with the elders of like, well, because they'd not been saved long. Intern here, by the way, doesn't mean eldership or place of authority. It just means someone we're looking out, discipling full time. Yeah. They tend to always be new believers. And
so we've patterned our internship after yours.
yeah, but when I say intern and say this stuff, sometimes in the States, people think
9 marks internship.
Associate
totally
pastor,
different.
He's
Right.
out smoking crack and he's still an intern. And so, anyway, and there was a big discussion about it. I said, listen, boys, sanctification is going to look very, very different here. If someone's grown up, had violence done to them since childhood, grown up around violence, all they know how to respond is with violence. Coming to Jesus is not going to take away those sort of instinctive, behaviors. And so we're going to have to learn to walk with people. But then where's the line between genuine falling into sin, repenting and get back up again, and this is genuinely recidivistic, sinful, not looking very repentant behavior?
Yeah.
It's a real balance, right?
And here's a question for you, would you remove somebody from the internship that you would not move into church discipline? Meaning, would it be one and the same? As long as you're still a member, you can remain an intern.
Yeah, so we would have that. So some people would naturally come to the end of an internship. So you can't be an intern unless you've been baptized.
Yeah, you're a member.
Saved into membership.
Yeah.
And so, so if it's like a serious issue, then removal and discipline would happen.
Yeah, synonymously.
Yeah, but if it's like, look, this isn't going to be for you. I think you need to get a job.
Yeah, that's true.
There's no real issue
that's
here.
True.
There's a few little minor things, but nothing that none of us are dealing with. It's not a membership thing. It's just let's help you find.
And that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So if it's a sin issue that you're removing them.
Well, we don't remove anybody for a sin issue. Let me be clear. Ever, we remove people for consistently, persistently unrepentant sin.
So let me ask you: if you had a guy, an intern.
Yeah.
And
you're interviewing me now. I like this.
Say it again.
I like the fact that you've switched the tables.
I told you I was going to interview you for this.
That's good. I got you on the race thing though. That made you nervous. No, we're back now. You've won it. You've got it back round. So let's go.
Yeah. A guy smoking weed. Off and on.
Yeah.
Seems to be fighting it.
Yeah.
Seems to be fighting it. Let's say he's been smoking weed since he was 12.
Yeah.
As much as I drink water.
Yeah.
Or whatever's in this.
Yeah. Water. Yeah.
And now he's actually going 30 days without smoking weed.
Yeah.
But then he falls back into it.
Yeah.
Off and on. What do you do? Is this immediate church discipline? Is this removal from the internship? Keep him on as a member? Is this hey, he's making progress, he's smoking less? And it's weed, it's not, we're not talking about crack cocaine or heroin.
But weed's illegal, right?
But weed is illegal.
Right, so.
Using an illegal substance.
And I wouldn't use that false distinction that at least it's not crack or heroin.
True, but crack and heroin are more damaging physically.
Yeah, maybe so, but so is alcohol.
True.
Smoking cigarettes.
It's legal though. That's the difference.
Exactly, and that's
Crazy.
where we're getting down to.
Yeah.
Also, I think Valium's far more pernicious than weed. So
Yeah.
if it was just weed, that would be like a dream come true. If I could meet one of my people that was just smoking weed, we'd be high-fiving and having a celebration service. But anyway.
Weed for us though is a big issue.
It's a big issue for us, but it's not the
guys
issue. That
won't be
weed
doing-
seems to be the. If I've got to draw up a list of things that these guys are coming with, like you've said it right, you know, crack, you've got heroin, you've got uppers, you've got downers, you've got,
Right.
you know, you've got the Valium, you've got this, you've got that, you've got, and then you've got weed.
Yeah.
So I've literally said to people who've professed faith in the early days, don't give up smoking the weed. Just keep smoking it for now. This gets me into trouble as well.
And they might be a member of your church.
They may not be a member at that stage, no, but they've just
Okay.
come to faith. They're coming to the church. We're trying to work out where they're at, what's going on in life. Maybe they just got off I mean, you know where it's round here. I've got guys who've got a £200 a night crack habit, right, which is a lot. He was renting himself out in the town as a rent boy to, unbelievably, local judges and stuff. But anyway, he'd been doing 200 quid a night worth of crack for years, right? And you don't, as we both know, you don't just do one drug.
And quid is bucks when
Bucks,
you say
yeah,
quid.
so $300.
Okay, I got you.
So, yeah, this is the UK now, so we'll talk English. We've been doing it a long time, as we know, right? These guys don't just come with one drug. It's not like I just smoke weed or I just do this. There's multiple, particularly if they've been doing it over an extended period. And he came to me and he said, I want to give my life to Christ. And we sat down and said, look, what are you on? That's always the first question is, what are you on? Once they've lied to you and you find out what they're on. So he was like on his crack. He was also taking antipsychotics because obviously he had severe paranoia. That was legal. He would do heroin, you know, cocaine balls, all the usual. And because of his nerves and he couldn't sleep at night, you know, he'd smoke weed. It was always helpful on a come down, right? And he said, what do I do? I said, look, you're going to have to come off all of it. But right now, if I was you, leave the weed. Just keep smoking the weed. Because you're just about to go through some turkey time, and that's going to be rough. And you're just going to give up if you have to just go, well, now some people can argue against it and all that. And my charismatic friend said, you should just have prayed for him to be healed. And I wish it was that simple, by the way. And so I said to him, no. And so come down by steps and come off it. So you can't come into membership of our church if you are on any street drug.
Okay.
If you are on prescribed medication, antipsychotics, even Valium, which I'm always shady about.
Which is crazy because those can be abused.
Valium. I think Valium is a worse epidemic and a worse drug to kick than heroin.
Yeah.
Heroin is actually a piece of cake. Don't believe the hype compared to Valium.
Would you bring in somebody who's on alcohol, like physically on alcohol?
Yeah, it's an interesting one. So again, we had a guy who was drinking 20 cans of super strength lager, a couple of bottles of wines and some spirits a day. And he'd been doing it for 22 years.
Yeah.
Came along to the church, made a profession of faith. He's dead now. I remember we were going for a church weekend away. And he wanted to come. And we had to talk about it as elders. And we had a friend who was a Christian doctor nearby.
Yeah.
And I said to her, look, I mean, the church position is no, obviously no. You can't be drinking and being at a church weekend away. It's ridiculous. I think Big Aim might have been the first weekender he came to. And went to the doctor and said, look, he wants to come. I'd rather him sit under the gospel and good teaching than just say you can't come. Is there can you give him some sort of medication or something just to help him get through the weekend? She said, no, you can't stop him. If you stop him, his body will go into toxic shock. Yeah. He'll be finished. So she recommended we take 6. Can you remember this, John?
It was,
is it 6 cans or more? Was it? I can't remember.
It was just 4 or 6 or something.
I think it was about 6. She said take 6 cans of strong lager with you a day. Yeah. Give him 2 when he wakes up in the morning, 2 in the middle of the day, and 2 at night to get to sleep. And he should be fine.
Yeah.
Should be stable.
Yeah.
And so we ended up taking this guy on our church weekend away with a series of 6-packs in the fridge to stabilize him. But he listened, he took it on, he made a profession of faith. Fortunately, like many of them, he wandered back into his lifestyle and was found dead.
That's tough. That's
tough.
tough.
I think his liver blew out. But did we make the right decision or the wrong decision? Man, what do you think? I don't know. I think
it's the right decision. I mean,
I got a lot of heat.
It's tough, yeah.
But here's what I know. That was about a year before he died. He heard the gospel that weekend. Do you know what I mean? He was sober enough to and so. But as a rule, no. Obviously, no. If you are going out getting drunk, if a member of my church is smoking weed,
right,
and they're unrepentant about it,
right,
they are going
right,
to have to, you know, we have a process. They'd
Yeah.
be challenged. Everybody has a one-to-one discipler. They'd be challenged there. If it's not there, Matthew 18,
Yeah.
2 would go along. If not there, they come to the elders. If not there, they go to the
Yeah.
church. They'd be on a process.
And we're talking about sanctification here.
Yeah, yeah,
But
yeah.
I think there's got to be some sign of sanctification.
Yeah.
Even if there is a continual struggle at some level.
But what does
there's gotta be some kind of
sanctification
sign.
need in order to prove itself? It needs time.
Yeah.
We live in an instant generation.
Sure.
Like, they've come to faith, well, they better clean up.
Yeah.
And hang on a minute, that's not even...
Yeah. So one of our
Yes.
interns recently, about a month ago, confessed to me that he's been using.
Yeah.
And I knew he was. And it was something he struggled with off and on. Started using again as an intern.
Weed?
Member of the church. Just weed, yeah. Weed, but I think it might be laced. I think they're lacing weed with stuff in Baltimore.
Yeah.
Because it's causing guys to nod out.
What's it called here? That's spice. Is that,
Yeah.
we call it spice here. People just zonk out in the
Yeah,
street.
yeah,
They're
yeah.
like zombies.
Put a little fentanyl in it.
Yeah.
Anyway, so he's still an intern. He's got 30 days clean as of last Monday.
Yeah.
And we're just walking with him, you know. And so I see that as evidence of conversion, sanctification in his life, that he has the Holy Spirit.
But bingers are the most difficult.
Oh, yeah.
Because what you get with a binger, we had a laddie here
Well, that's how people die.
who would stay clean for a year,
Right.
an intern, then go nuts. He'd go missing for 5 days. He's fine. He'd be comatose, arrested somewhere
Yeah.
in a cell. Then he's like, I'm sorry, I'm repentant. Submit to what we said, you know, stay clean, do this, read the
Yeah.
Bible, see you one guy, stay clean for 10 months, bang, go off, have a blowout. And so this went on for about 4 years. He was a member and also an intern for a couple of years of that. In the end, just because of the period of years and the pattern, we just said to him, one, he wanted to be a preacher,
Mm-hmm.
and he was a brilliantly gifted preacher.
Mm-hmm.
Brilliant. I said to him, I'm not saying you're not saved, but I'm saying is you don't have there is a character fault. There's a fault within your character, and it seems like we worked out under any kind of pressure or stress.
Yeah.
You have a major. You just can't seem to cope with life. I'm not saying
Yeah.
I'm not saying you can't even be a member of this church, but what I am saying is I don't think you'd ever be suitable for ministry while
Yeah.
this goes on.
Yeah.
And we observed it over a period. And unfortunately, as many of them do, he left the church.
Yeah. It's tough.
And I think I won't even tell you, but it's not one of the tragedies.
Yeah.
But
Well,
you
working
just
with
have to make these calls,
and working
man.
with folks who have addiction is so difficult, incredibly difficult.
Yeah.
And one thing that we've learned, and we've learned this partly from you guys, is the importance of having people live with us, so we can model
Yeah.
a life without substances, that you can live without addiction.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of guys have never seen that modeled.
Yeah.
They don't know that you can live without these substances, and I know you guys have. You do the same thing. You bring guys into your house.
Yeah.
Intentional living is a big deal.
Look, it's massively important, and that goes back to the model of discipleship required in our communities requires a huge amount of time
Yeah.
and input.
Yeah.
And in many ways, the modern evangelical, particularly Reformed church, does not have a model of discipleship that can adequately cope
Yeah.
with how we do it in those
Yeah.
members. I'm gonna call this to a close because it's time, John. Right? It's about time. But it has been good and fascinating, bud.
It's a
And he's
good
going to
book, right?
plug this book,
Sharon
Unforgettable.
Dickens, unexceptional. It's unforgettable though. Excellent book.
Let me have a look at it.
Yep.
So I should have a look at it. I know it. So Unexceptional. You can get it from 10 of those publishing. Support the Worker 20 scheme. Support the women's ministry. It is a chapter, different chapter from a different woman around the world in a different context. My wife's actually written a chapter.
Yeah, I noticed that. I haven't read it
The
yet.
church planter's wife and how happy she is in it. Good
Flourishing.
flourishing.
She's flourishing.
good stuff, and it's like stuff like when ministry doesn't go to plan. It's not all just, you know, chocolates and roses. This is a really good, helpful book, and I'm really glad it's out. Thank you for your time, bud.
Thank you.
You're a geese.
You were the geese.
We could have done 5 of these on different topics.
Let's do another one.
We should do it. So if
Do
I
it
get
in Baltimore sometime.
let's do it.
All right.
Get your little posse in. That'll be good, actually.
That would be fun.
All right. Thanks, John.